Hello, this is the Fight Back podcast, hosted by exercise scientist Georgia Very. Here you'll find a series of honest conversations about martial arts and mental health. My guests and I explore the statement that every martial artist has heard: martial arts saved me. How and why do combat sports save people? Listen to find out. Hey there, conscious combat soul. What, you? Yes, I'm talking to you. If you listen to this podcast, then you are a human being who loves combat and wants to be conscious about the way that you're doing it. You're interested in being more trauma-informed, more inclusive, and more ethical in the way that you teach and participate in martial arts and combat sports. And that's why I would like to invite you specifically to join our new group, the Conscious Combat Club. We're on Facebook, and there's an emailing newsletter that you can sign up for, the details for both of which are in the show notes here. But now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome to the Fight Back podcast, everyone. I am here today with Mint Licata. She is a Muay Thai photographer and practitioner. Mint, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Georgia. I'm happy to be here.
I'm super happy to have you on. I love that we were able to meet. Wow, my words are just done by the end of today. I'm so happy we were able to meet through Fight Her, which we should probably plug at some point, maybe later on during this episode. But let's talk about you. I'm super interested to learn more about you and your story. So let's maybe start with how you got into Muay Thai.
Sure. So I got into Muay Thai when I was 10 years old, actually, so 18 years ago, through my stepdad, he's from Thailand, and he is a retired Muay Thai fighter from like 100 years ago. He's pretty old now, but he teaches now in the, Washington, D.C. area. He coaches part-time, and, he'll work at gyms and coach students and fighters there. But with me, it started when so I didn't plan on getting into Muay Thai, but just to summarize, I was born in the US. My mom is from Thailand, and my biological father is from Pakistan. So total clash in culture, and I had quite the identity crisis growing up. But when I was a young kid, in Washington, D.C., that's where I grew up, they have a Thai temple where on Sundays, Thai kids would go learn to write, read, and speak the language. They would learn culture. They would learn to play the instruments and whatnot. And I participated every Sunday. But it was hard for me because I'm not only half Thai, but I'm half Pakistani, and, and especially in, Southeast Asian cultures, to be quite honest, there's prejudice towards South Asian people like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. They kind of look down on them. I'm not saying all Southeast Asians are like that, but this is from my personal experience. I'm not lumping everybody into one group. But I got picked on by kids, teenagers, even Thai adults, especially Thai adults, and my mom and my uncle's friend group. And I was just such an angry kid. I was picking fights at school. Well, they were mostly one-sided because I don't condone violence in a unsanctioned sport, but I would just, I was the bully because people were bullying me. So I became the physical bully, and I would get in trouble at school. And there was one particular person who was my absolute tormentor. He was my uncle's friend. And, I still remember this vividly, and I talk about it in therapy sometimes. He would call me all types of derogatory names for South Asian people. Thai, in the Thai language, there's derogatory terms for for Indian people, and he would call me that. And, he would just torment me day in and day out because he would come over often. And, like my family didn't do anything about it. I still have a rocky relationship with my mom and my older brother because I would tell them, this person keeps saying this to me, they keep saying that to me. And they would just tell me, oh, he's joking, just, don't be so sensitive. But I'm like 7 years old, I'm 8 years old, and this person is telling me I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm this and that. And when you're a kid, you really soak that in. And I was just so angry, and I would take my anger out on my classmates. And I remember when I was 8 years old, the same person, he threatened to kill me. And I was 8 years old. I was terrified. And like my first instinct was, so he was in front, like he was on top of a flight of stairs, and he was like bending over to grab something. And I pushed him down the stairs, and he's fine. He a couple bruises and stuff. He didn't break his neck, but I got in so much trouble that my family. So there's this Thai thing where if you do something that dishonors your family in a way, they send you to the temple to kind of like bring forgiveness for your family. So my mom sent me to Chiang Mai in Thailand, which years later is where I ended up living. But she sent me to a temple in rural Chiang Mai to live as a nun for a year. And I remember the first month was so hard. I was crying every day, and I was thinking my mom left me. If I get emotional, I'm really sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
I was thinking my mom left me. She doesn't love me. Nobody took my side. And I really hated myself because of who I was or who I am. And I feel like it caused me so much trouble. And, just every negative thing that a young girl can think about herself, she would think about. And like, I remember when I was a teenager, I found my old diaries from when I was around that age, like 7 or 8, before I lived in Thailand for a year, like how I wanted to die and how I wish I wasn't alive. Like an 8-year-old should not be writing about that. I think about it now with my grown up eyes, and I just like, I feel sad for that young child version of myself. Like I don't feel like I'm her anymore, but I feel like I feel so bad for that young kid. But anyway, I was at the temple for a year. I did the whole like shaving my head, wearing the white robe, and just pretty much following the monks. Like when they would go into town and people would bring them food, I would help them carry food. And I was learning a lot about like the simple Thai life, and that honestly taught me how to live a very simple life and what have you. It was, all in all, it was a really interesting experience. I don't regret it. But when I came back home in Washington D.C., things didn't really change. I still felt anger. Like I thought when I would see my mom, oh mom, I miss you. Oh brother, I miss you. But I didn't feel that. I felt really angry towards them. Like, how can you leave me in this place where I'm sharing a room with at least 12 other kids on a very thin mat on the floor, and getting very little to eat because there's so many mouths to feed. And Thailand is not a rich country. And I come back to America, my hair is so short, and I'm like, why would you leave me there? I'm your baby. So I still came back a very angry kid. And about 1 or 2 years later, when I was 10, so yeah, 1 year later, I met my stepdad, who going forward, I'm going to be calling him dad because honestly, he's like my real dad. He's done so much for me, and he still does. And I love that man to death. He's such a good man. And I met my stepdad, when I was 10, and there was one incident I'll never forget. There was this kid. I still remember his name, but I'm not going to say it out loud. But I remember his name, and I remember he was wearing a red and white striped horizontal shirt, and he just he kept making fun of my teeth and whatnot, and I just snapped, and I jumped out of my chair and I started wailing on him. I don't condone violence, by the way, but I had no control over my anger, because it builds up. And my mom and my stepdad went to the school. I was suspended for a week. And of course, my mom was disappointed. She told me, I can't watch TV, Nintendo 64 or anything. And my dad, he said, he was a lot more nice when my mom yelled at me, but my stepdad, he talked to me one-on-one, and he said, I understand what you did. When you show people that they have an effect on your emotions, if you show them their words make you cry, you're letting them win. It doesn't matter if you fight back and you come out of that fight with no bruises, because people are going to see what you did. They don't hear what they said. They only see what you did. And you lose in the end because you let somebody control your heart. I remember those words exactly. You let somebody control your heart. And I was just crying. I was like, Dad, I don't know what to do. Everyone is so mean to me. I hate myself. I hate everybody. And that's when I remember he said, on Saturday, I'm going to show you some boxing. It started as Western boxing. Like he taught me the 1, 2, 3s, all that kind of stuff, because he had his own mitts. And that's when he showed me that, he gave me his old gloves. They were oversized, and you kind of look like sock and boppers. I don't know if you remember those when you were a kid.
Yes.
Those big inflatable things, and you beat up your friends. They look like rock and sock and boppers on me. But it was an experience that I'll never forget. The first time I hit mitts with my dad, jab, cross, hook, turn your hips this way. I'm like, wow, there's a whole technique to this. And he was also dads that give you life lessons. I'm teaching you this power that not a lot of people have. Not a lot of people know how to properly fight. But because you have this power, you have this responsibility to protect yourself and not harm others. This is for you. This is not to hurt other people. And from then on, it evolved into Muay Thai. It evolved into American wrestling, because somehow my dad just knows a lot of different combat sports. That is his life. So he taught me wrestling and grappling, and I was doing that every day after school, all through middle school and high school. And I actually wanted to do high school wrestling, but my mom and my brother didn't let me, because they didn't want me like wrestling with guys, which, you know, I was mad at them, but I understand. But my dad would still teach me after school until like I was about in like college years, like 18, 19. He had to kind of put coaching on the back burner, and he had to work full time. So I went to like Muay Thai gyms in the DC area, and I had plans on fighting. You know, I started at a young age. I had an advantage. So I was at Pentagon MMA in Arlington, Virginia, and the coaches there are awesome. The owner is amazing. I told them, you know, I wanted to fight, and I met somebody, you know, in my dating life that was a lot older than me, and you know, he was the first person that was like, you know, because I always hid the fact that I'm half Pakistani, but I told him, you know, because he asked me like, oh, what is your ethnic background? I told him I'm half Thai, half Pakistani, and he was like, wow, that's beautiful, and I was like, somebody didn't say that I was ugly? What? So that just smitten me. My young 21-year-old self was just so like, oh my God, he thinks I'm pretty, you know, I like him a lot and this and that. So it turned into a 3-year relationship of just him like tearing down on me and me folding because I thought that I would never have anybody else that would accept me for who I am and this and that. And like he didn't particularly like me participating in Muay Thai and grappling and whatnot. I actually, when I was in college, I was doing MMA, and I actually had like big dreams to join the UFC and whatnot. And, you know, that came to a halt when, well, one, college, you know, I couldn't train as much. And two, I met this guy while I was in college, and he wasn't very keen on me doing combat sports because, oh, it's not feminine and this and that. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I can't lose this guy, so I have to listen to him. And I remember he told me, you know, I would look better. Like, I'm pretty now. Like, you're pretty now, but you would be even prettier if you had bigger breasts. And I was like, well, he said it in a very disgusting way that a typical man dude bro would say. And I was like, well, I want you to think I'm prettier. So yeah, I'll get them. So he paid for me to have breast augmentation. And this should have been a red flag that I didn't notice. But when we were having a consultation with the surgeon in Fairfax, Virginia, I'm questioning whether or not I should say their name because I would want people to avoid the surgeon. But at the same time, I don't, you know, I don't know. I care for my own safety, so I'll decide on that later. You know, I went to the surgeon with my then boyfriend at the time, and pretty much I didn't get a word in when we were doing the consultation. You know, the boyfriend at the time was saying, you know, make them as big as her body can hold, and I'm very petite. So, you know, I don't have much skin to stretch. So, you know, he just said, make them as big as possible. And, you know, the surgeon didn't like kind of see that as a red flag or like question, like, is it ethical for me to do the surgery if this girl is not even like showing any excitement or even verbally saying, yeah, she wants to do this. So I went on and did it. And I completely stopped training, and I have not been myself since. I tried to do Muay Thai again, but it was very uncomfortable even just to move. Even wearing 2 sports bras, I, you know, it was just so much weight on my petite body, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And even now, I try and try, and then I just get discouraged again. And I couldn't grapple anymore because when, my sparring partner is laying on top of me, I'm being suffocated, not by my partner, but by my breast implants. So I stopped grappling, and it just, I felt like I lost a part of me. Martial arts is what saved me from myself, saved me from choosing a violent path that would ultimately end up getting me in more trouble than I would have in school. Who knows what kind of person I would have been if my dad didn't show me Muay Thai, didn't show me anything like that. And it has been like kind of an up and down road since I got the surgery. I broke up with that boyfriend, and months later I met my now husband, and he is a professional Muay Thai fighter. That's why we're in Thailand right now. And I've always been into photography as like my artistic outlet. And I decided, since I can't physically participate in the sport, I'll try photographing it. And, I would go to small local fights. I would, work on getting these angles and that shot. And I was progressively getting better over time until people started noticing my work. And then they would call me for commissions. I'm like, okay, I was accepting, like, I can't fight, but I can be there at the fights and capture other people's glory moments. And I genuinely love that. It's a beautiful art, watching Muay Thai and to capture the perfect, beautiful kick, or, like, I love clinching photos. I don't know. They just look like Renaissance paintings. I fell in love with Muay Thai photography, and I made it a job here. So that's where I'm at now. But after talking to my general practitioner, because I was feeling so much discomfort in my left breast, and like when you think the worst, I have some pretty bad anxiety. So I was thinking, oh my God, it's the big C. I'm like freaking out. So I went to my GP, and she was, checking around, and, she asked me if I have implants. I said yes. And she said it might have something to do with the implants. So she recommended a plastic surgeon in Chiang Mai. And because that's where we live. That's where my GP is right now, in Chiang Mai. And I went to the surgeon, and he told me, he did his examination, he did an X-ray and everything. And he told me there is so much built up scar tissue in and around that breast implant and in my my breast cavity, that if I don't take it out now, if I take it out later, it could get worse, and it can potentially go in my lymph nodes and stuff. It's rare, but it's possible. And like, that was a wake up call to me. Like, I've literally been carrying all this weight on me for the purpose of like appeasing the male gaze and being what, men want us to be, but it's literally causing me physical health problems. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that there are so many complications with breast implants. And so many things can go wrong. Just because it's a popular surgery doesn't mean that it's good for you. Like, even the Brazilian butt lift is the most dangerous plastic surgery you can get, but people still get them. And, I will never knock anybody that wants to get surgery for themselves. If they feel like this is my real self, I want this, I understand the risk, that's their life, and we have no room to judge. But for me, it, I didn't want them from day one. I did not want them, but I felt like I had to get them. And I spoke to my husband, and I told him what the surgeon said. And I told him the truth. I told him, I like Muay Thai, specifically Muay Thai, has been my life since I was 10. And I had this ambition to fight and compete, get medals, belts, trophies. And I couldn't do that because of these breast implants that I was manipulated into getting. And I decided that I want to take them out and get my body back, because I feel like this is not my real body. And just every day thinking about taking them out gets me more and more excited. And he's a man, and he's very honest, but he's also very kind and understanding. He said, as a man, I will miss your big boobs, but it is your body, your mental health, your physical health. That is number one. That is number one. I didn't marry you for your boobs, and we had a really big talk, and it was very emotional. It was like, oh my God, you love me for me and not my boobs. But he's amazing. He's so supportive, and he's a blessing. But yeah, I have that surgery scheduled for June 25th, and then I have a month of healing before I can do any physical activity. And then after I'm cleared to do, physical activity, then I'm going to go back to training 6 days a week like I used to. And I already told our coach, our teacher in Chiang Mai, crew, Thailand Pinsanchai. If you've heard of him, he is one of the biggest fighters in the golden era of Muay Thai. And he's so nice. Like, he's so humble. It's like he's a celebrity everywhere we go, when we go to fights and stuff. And like, all these like older people know who he is. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, to me, he's like my Thai uncle, but then like to everyone else, he's like this famous guy. So it's so weird. But anyway, I told them that, I'm getting the surgery, and then when I'm healed, I want to train and I want to fight. And he was like, okay, when you're ready, I'll see you this time every day. No excuses. I was like, okay. but yeah, that's pretty much the whole timeline, from start to how it stopped to how I'm getting my life back. And I'm just so excited for it. So excited.
It's huge, right? Because we talk about embodied change, this idea that like in order to heal from so many things, right? I think your story feels a lot like this very symbolic manifestation of being a victim of the patriarchy, right? All these power over structures saying like, you're a woman, you're an object, and then having the physical manifestation of that stuck to you that, like you said, you've literally been carrying for so long. It's incredibly inspiring to see how excited you are about it already. And despite the fact that you've suffered so much at the hands of this system, you're still having a positive outlook and you're still trying to be a vehicle for change and sharing the story with other people. But also, yeah, it's like you said, this next step is going to be the embodiment of kind of being free in some way from those power over structures.
Oh, for sure. I used to thank you. I used to beat myself up a lot because I let somebody, convince me that I had to be this way and that way, and this person took an insecurity that he very well knew about and just used it to his advantage. And I try not to beat myself up over it because what I know now, the person I used to be didn't know that. And she was just doing the best she could with what she knew. So, we have to give ourselves grace for, being in these situations that, we had little, or even if we did have control over, but we didn't know what to do. Especially when we're young, we trust these people that are supposed to love us, take care of us, but they don't do their duty. And it's not our fault. And, we have to understand that we are who we are, and we don't have to be what society tells us. If these certain people have a problem with me being half Pakistani, what are you going to do? I can't change who I am. First of all, I'm fabulous as hell. I'm unique. And, I accepted who I am, of course, through therapy, through, just being around different people who didn't see me as an object, but saw me as a friend, saw me as a training partner. Because that's the thing about martial arts, is that it doesn't matter how messy you look. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, who you identify as. We're all on that mat together. We're all there to help each other out and help each other grow and corner each other for fights and stuff. All fight camp and everything is grueling, but when you're on that mat, we all have to be there together, and everything else outside of the mat doesn't matter. So, people don't even ask me, what ethnicity, what are you? Why does it matter? I'm American. I was born here. That's all that matters. But it was quite the journey to accept who I am, and also learn not to let anybody tell me who I am, and what I'm capable of being. It took so many years, but it is possible. And, it, as simple as it sounds, it's not easy, but one of the main things is to just keep holding on to your vision, because that is what's going to keep you going. There's going to be so many obstacles, and sometimes we do fall, because society conditions women that we don't have value unless we're pretty, or we dress this way, or we do that. We're good cooks, and so it's, you kind of have to ignore the noise, and even if you do dress like that because it makes you happy, or, you know, you like to get dolled up because it makes you happy, that is totally different than feeling like you have to do it, you know. And I've always been a tomboy. I always wore like boys' clothes just because I thought boys' clothes looked cool, and I love Hawaiian shirts. Oh, you should have seen me. If I had pictures of my Hawaiian shirt phase, it was a fun time. The Hawaiian shirt and Vans and Dickies shorts. Like, I was definitely a character back then. But yeah, I was just always a tomboy. And then when I met that boyfriend at the time, you know, he told me, you know, the way I dressed was like, you know, he was like, "Oh, you look like a lesbian. That's this and that." I'm like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with lesbians, and they know how to dress. Is one. That's all I'm gonna say. And he just like bought me all these like different dresses, and really low cut, and like just really body hugging. And I never like really wore tight clothes because I just I just always hated when people made physical comments about my body. Um, like especially when, oh God, when you're a teenage girl going through puberty, and there's always going to be some creep that's like, "Oh, you're certainly filling out," and I'm like, "Give me that sweater! Don't look at me!" Like, God, it's terrible that that's still a thing. Like, I would never want to be a teenager again. Oh gosh, but you know, it's just, at the end of the day, you know, hold on to your vision. That's really what kept me going, is never forgetting what I am capable of. Even when we fall down and we fall victim to mental abuse, to emotional abuse, you know, I always kept this journal, and I would write down who I am. And I would say things like, you know, I'm a Muay Thai fighter. I'm an MMA fighter. I can do this. I can do that. I'm beautiful in my own way, and this and that. And I would just keep those reminders to myself, because really that's the only thing that kept me going. And like, the power of journaling is so underrated. It really is. It, especially for people that have gone through traumatic experiences. It for me, like, just writing anything I wanted and no one else can look at it but me, that is like, that is my private space that nobody can get into. And even my husband, like, he sees so many journals around their house and he knows never to touch them. So that's like a hard no. And he's completely understanding. Yeah, I don't know what the main point was, because I'm the queen of tangents. So please, Georgia, bring me back.
Okay. No, I think the tangent that we went down is really helpful, right? Because the journey that you've been on, including like journaling and all of the things that, you know, you've thought about and said to yourself, they're grounded in experience too. So I think one of the things you said that really stuck out to me was about how you were like, you know, I try not to blame myself for like being swayed by his decisions and what he wanted for my body. But it's like the experiences that you had growing up color that so much. We can't look at things in isolation. It's not a black and white, like, do I want it or don't I want it? There are so many other societal, experiential things that lead up to that point of what you felt like other people were saying, but also your experiences with what other people literally said, that will lead to a point where you're like, this is obviously what I need to do in order to receive love, which is a fundamental human need. And then going forward, right, having Muay Thai means that when you journal, I'm more than big boobs, right? I am a Muay Thai fighter. I am an MMA fighter. It's not just positive affirmations and thoughts like I could be. It's I have the proof because I've done it. I've trained after school every day. I know my body's capable of that. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that we see in martial arts is they help, especially women, have experiences of power, have experiences of feeling strong and taking up space and having ownership of their bodies rather than just positive thinking, which is important, but it's really hard. It's hard to replace one identity with another one just with your words. But if you have proof, then your body and your brain is like, okay, I can believe it. I see some evidence. Like, we're cool. And now you could be at the point where you're like, I'm taking back my body. I'm taking out my implants. I'm going to finally chase my dream of stepping in the ring. Everything kind of comes full circle.
Yes. And I just, like, when you've been in such a negative mind space for so long, it's hard to believe, like, I'm taking my life back. It's like you never think, things will be the way that you want it to be, but it is possible. And like that's the main thing that is blowing my mind. Like, I still can't believe, like, oh my God, I'm finally getting these out. I have it scheduled. Once it's in the planner, it's happening.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's so exciting. I can't believe that it's actually happening because, like, martial arts just doesn't teach you, combat sports, but it also teaches you a philosophy, of calmness, of, having control of your mind, not letting it control you. And I love that aspect of martial arts, especially in Muay Thai. Like, if you watch Muay Thai fights, these fighters are getting battered and beaten, but their face is still like, I'm still fighting strong. They like, they're in physical pain, but they're in control of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dad was telling me, if you show the other person that they're hurting you, they're winning.
Mm-hmm.
So that ties a lot into, like, a Muay Thai fight. If you show your opponent that they're hurting you, then, like, honestly, judges look at that, and at least in Thailand, they look at that and they go, oh, that guy's, he's showing that he's hurt. It, like, goes against them. Like, it literally goes against them. That's crazy. Like, Thai scoring is so crazy compared to American scoring, but a lot goes into it. And I still can't wrap my head around it. And the fact that my husband is supportive of me, starting my fight career at the ripe age of 28, I'm so excited. I can't even describe it, because I need this. I know a lot of people who, like, started, like, they're into martial arts, and then COVID happened and all the gyms closed, and so many people were like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, even my husband, he was pretty depressed because he didn't have his outlet. He didn't have his sport. And, my, like, other friends who, I won't name, but, they went through depression. And I actually have a really, really, really good friend of mine. Her name is Stephanie. She was a student of my dad. He taught her Muay Thai, and she came from, like, a rough neighborhood, like, in the area we lived, and she was always with the wrong crowd, and she discovered Muay Thai through a mutual friend of ours, and she asked, "Where did you learn that?" Because she saw it on his Facebook, and he said, "Oh, I learned from Master Sam. Master Sam is my stepdad," and she reached out to my dad and started coaching her for a couple years, and like she stopped like all like the street hooligan shenanigans, and like she dedicated her time to Muay Thai, and I met her, and we trained together. We were soul sisters, and we can talk to each other about everything, anything. We were on the same wavelength. Like, she would call my mom and my stepdad, Ma, Pa, which means mom and dad in Thai. And, they called her daughter, and, she was so close to our family. And when COVID happened and everyone stopped training, she like went back to her old friends, and they're into like street racing and all that kind of stuff. And in September of 2020, she was in a Toyota Supra with one of her friends, and they were speeding down the highway in a small town in Maryland, and they crashed, and she died instantly in that car crash. And sorry.
Okay, take your time.
That was a very pivotal moment of my life. Like, I lost somebody so close to me, and we're so young. She's, at the time of her death, she was only 25, and it shows how martial arts really saves your life, or you'll take a different path, and ultimately it can cost your life. And with the age of social media, like somehow her story went on. Like, are you familiar with worldstarhiphop.com?
No.
Okay, maybe it's an American thing, but
it could be.
It's basically, I think it's strictly American, but it's a website where people just like post videos, like just kind of like ratchet kind of videos, like where it's like street fights or whatever, like just it's like just like street stuff. And my friend Stephanie happened to post like on her Instagram story, like her in the Supra, and then like somebody like screen recorded her story of her being in the Supra, and then the next video, like the next clip in that video was the car crash, and then people like zoomed into her body, and like everyone in the comments were making fun of her and saying she deserved it, and like people somehow found my Instagram because we have pictures together on her Instagram, and I'm tagged in them, and people just like started sending me hate mail, like, oh, you should have died with her in that car. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like I lost my best friend, and you're telling me I should die too? You don't even know me. And people were leaving terrible comments on her photos, saying like she had a 3-year-old son, and his birthday was a month before she passed away. and he bought her like one of those little kid cars that's like, it looks like a sports car, but a little kid can drive it. And somebody commented, hopefully he's a better driver than his mom, and just like terrible stuff like that. And like it really added salt to the wound. And that honestly, excuse me, that was the moment when I decided I'm gonna get back into this. I'm gonna get back into Muay Thai because, you know, it's like what Stephanie would want for me. It's what I want for me. I don't want to be in that dark place forever that I was in when I got my surgery. And, you know, I just felt like I had no path. And after her death, it, you know, it lit that passion for me again, because she, sorry, because like the same, like we almost have the same story. Like my dad saved her from, you know, doing stuff on the streets, and you know, my dad saved me from like beating up other kids at school. And I felt like I wanted to keep Muay Thai going for me, for her, for like the legacy that my dad led to saving us. I didn't, you know, he lost Stephanie. I didn't want him to lose me too. So it just lighted that fire again. And, you know, I've been working on trying to like train again and again, you know, but like these things were giving me trouble. So that's when I was like, all right, they're coming out. Like, I'm not giving up. Like, I still think about her to this day. And I have to keep this going, you know, until I'm too old, and then I will be able to teach women. And, you know, I even want to teach kids eventually, like when I'm like not fighting or training anymore, you know, give them the same freedom and bodily autonomy that I got. I'll help them, because unfortunately, you know, women will be victimized throughout, you know, I don't know how long. And, you know, unfortunately, that it doesn't seem like the world is going to change anytime soon. So the best that we can do is help each other out as fellow women, you know, and that's what I want to do. And, you know, for Stephanie and for me and for all the other women that felt like, you know, I don't have control of my body. I'm just an object. I'm just this, I'm that, you know. I have to appease the male gaze. No, you don't have to. You can be whoever you want to be. And that's what I want to show people, and especially I want to show myself. I can be whoever I want to be. No one can tell me otherwise. You know, that's really important to me right now. And, you know, it's a mad world. The only thing we can do is, you know, control the world, like our world, and try to bring up everyone else, you know, help bring them up with us. That's my philosophy. You know, if, you know, I see a fellow woman that's kind of struggling, you know, hey, like, you can come up with me. It's okay. You don't have to, I was there before, but you can stand up.
Yes.
Because, yeah, that was a very, very big moment in my life when she passed away, and really the start of the drive to get back into fighting. And in Muay Thai was because of Stephanie. And yeah, still to this day, it has a big effect on, our little Muay Thai community in the DC area. And her funeral was the first time I ever saw my stepdad cry. Like, I've known him most of my life. And that was the first time I saw him cry. And when I saw that man cry, girl, I fell down on my knees and I was sobbing because, he was always like the strong male figure in my life, and who was really protective and, very caring, very protective, but, he was always like the strong one. And then when I saw him cry, I like a almond flour cookie that did not have enough milk. I was just like, it broke me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew I have to do this, not for myself, but for him, because he passed this knowledge down to me, and I can't let it die with me. I need to keep it going. If not for me, then for the man who saved me. Because to see him like that, I never want to see him like that again. Mm-hmm. So I decided to pick it back up, and we're getting there.
Yeah, and I mean, the social media piece is really tough. Like, you have to be very protective of the kind of spaces that you inhabit online, just because people are not being people. They are really not looking at people as a whole, hearing their story, judging people on one moment. And on the one hand, it's absolutely fucked. It's messed up. It's so terrible. The other hand, with the internet, I think that one of the cool things that's coming out now is that you can choose to totally stay away from spaces like that, like Instagram and Facebook, for the most part, like as much as you can. And you can spend time in places like the Fight Her Discord. So for people who don't know, Discord is like a online chat program that often is used by gamers, but more and more is being used for specific communities to connect in the web. And it's a 100% positive space. Like, there's no negativity allowed. It's a safe space. It's a women owned and run and participated in space. And so you can choose to go online, and I'll drop the link here for how to put your details if you identify as female and are a fighter, and you want to join the Fight Her community and spend your time hearing positive messages, like what we're, for the most part, talking about today, from other women, to surround yourself by that kind of messaging, as opposed to stuff that has no business taking up real estate in your mindset.
Right. Oh, I cannot thank that community enough. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, if, like you said, if you are female identified or non-binary, fill out the form. And, it is such a great community. I don't know if you remember, this was about a month ago. I was getting ready to photograph at Rajadamnern Stadium in Bangkok, Thailand. And I was the first female to photograph there. And I mean, it didn't go perfectly, but still, I was able to get some photographs in before. So I'll give the details for people that don't know. So Rajadamnern Stadium is the first Muay Thai stadium in Thailand. So there's a lot of history behind it, but there's still a lot of archaic traditions. Like women are still not allowed to fight there, and women are not allowed to touch the ring. So there's a there's a promoting company called GSV Combat where they just merged with Rajadamnern Stadium. So Raja, I'm just calling Raja. Raja Stadium is its own company, and GSV is its own company. So GSV, they are like very young, progressive, a lot of diversity in that company, whereas Raja, it's the same old Thai men that have been working there for decades. So GSV invited me to photograph this really big event on, what was it, May 12th? Yeah, it was May 12th. And, you know, I had my VIP pass and everything, and I was in there. The assistant for GSV was showing me around, and you know, I was like, okay, you know, she's like, let me know if you need anything. And I said, thank you. I'm like walking around trying to get some good, you know, vantage points. And I could tell like the old time men were looking at me like they were kind of sneering at me. And, you know, I am fluent in Thai. So I heard one guy say to another, what is she doing here? And I just like let it roll off my shoulder. I was like, oh, whatever. I'm here to do my job. Mm-hmm. And haters can just hate over there. So fights were starting, and first round of the first fight, I was taking some pretty good photographs, and then security for Raja Stadium told me that I couldn't be there and that I need to go up to the stand. I was like, I showed them my pass. I was like, I have permission to take photographs here. And he was still like arguing with me. And I called the GSV assistant, and she came over, explained it to him. And then like, you know, everything was fine, but I could tell he was like pissy, but whatever. So I went to another side of the ring to get more photos. Same thing with another security guard. Mm-hmm. And I was just getting so frustrated. I was like, I'm not arguing with these people anymore. I'm just going to go up to the stands and just watch the rest of the fights. And my husband was there, and he saw me walking up, and we locked eyes. We didn't even need to say anything. Mm-hmm. He knew. And it was not the experience we were expecting. Like everyone on the Fight Hurt Discord, like whenever something is going on, we all cheer each other on. And, you know, they were cheering me on like, yeah, man, you got this, you know, we're so happy for you, you know, can't wait to see, we can't wait to see the content. And then I told them what happened, and, you know, they were all so supportive. And I honestly was about to give up photography, because even in Thailand, the Muay Thai photography scene is just a boys' club. Mm-hmm. And I know who those guys are. I see them on Instagram. They all hang out together, and they're all just like sick. And then, you know, I'm not going to name names, but there are a few people in that like Muay Thai like social scene. Like they're not fighters, but they're in like a social scene where, you know, they know promoters, and, you know, they kind of schmooze with them, and kind of like if they have a favorite fighter or favorite photographer, they'll get them there. Mm-hmm. And like there's like a particular person that, like, if you're not a cute little Thai girl, then he's not going to help you out. He's not going to, you know, put in a good word for you or help you, you know, do this and that. Like everything that I like in terms of my photography, I've gotten there myself. and I've gotten so much rejection, so many messages left like unread, and just so many roadblocks. But then I finally got this one to go to Raja, and I only got a few photos in, but like, not making any comparisons because it's nothing like what I'm about to say, but Rosa Parks didn't take the whole ride to where she needed to go, but she was still the first person, the first Black woman to sit in the front of the bus, even though she got kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a step.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly what we wanted, but it raised awareness that things need to change.
Yeah.
And, I take that negative experience as, okay, these old Thai men are not ready, but I'm going to keep working at it, and I'm going to get not only myself, but other women in there. So yeah, that was a whole ordeal, but if it weren't for the members of Fight Her, I would have given up. I was so pissed. I spent the whole next day crying. I was supposed to meet up with the person that runs the Discord, Angela Chang. If you haven't seen her fight, she's an American Muay Thai fighter who lives in Bangkok. She is so good. And, anyone watching, put her name on YouTube, watch her fight, and then just be amazed. But I was supposed to meet up with her that day, but I was just so depressed. I was like, I can't get out of bed. And she was really nice and understanding, and it was a shit situation. But, everyone in that community, like, I have nothing but good things to say. Like, I'm so glad that we have that space to support each other and talk about these things. And, it's a place where we elevate each other. We don't bring each other down. And, that's what we need. Like, women are already brought down a peg or two because of how society is built. In this space, they're, we bring each other up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And that's how we met.
That is how we met. And as we start to run out of time, I want to know, apart from the Discord, which, like I said, I'll put a link to anyone who wants to join, how can people connect with you online?
Sure. So I have my main Instagram account that I use for like putting my training footage and just like miscellaneous stuff. The handle is my fight name that my dad gave to me when I was a kid. It's so hard to spell because it's in Thai. It's called Sao Sua. That means tiger daughter. So it's the letter S-A. How do I spell it?
SAOSEUA.x.
Yeah. Yes, because I know how to spell it in Thai, but then like when you spell Thai words but in English, it's so confusing to me.
Oh my God, that's the most impressive thing ever. That is amazing. Yeah, no, don't worry. I'll drop the link in the show notes anyway, so people can just click on it.
Perfect. Sorry, I look like such a dummy.
No, it makes you look so smart. You speak multiple languages. It's the most impressive thing in the world to me.
Oh, like like Thai. I still struggle with Thai. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, but yeah, because it's what's called Thai karaoke. So you write a word in Thai, but it's in like English words. Like, how people say like hello, sawadika. They write like SAW sawadika, like in English. So that's called Thai karaoke. I am really bad at that. So that's my main account. And then my photography account is Mint Licata Photo. So that's like more my like a businessy account. That's where I put some of my work in. And if you are a fighter, if you want me to go to your fights and photograph for you, or even go to your gym and make like a promotional video for your training and everything, that's what I do. I do both photograph and videography for social media specifically. So if you need any of that, I'd be more than happy to help. I know like the great angles too, because I have the eyes of a Muay Thai fighter. So I know exactly what angles to capture and what you don't want to put in there. Like if your technique, like you're like, take that out, I'll be like, you don't need to tell me, I got you. So.
Yes. Oh, I'm sad that I'm not in Thailand so that we can't work together, but who knows? Maybe I'll come back sometime.
Where are you in Australia?
Australia. Yeah, in Melbourne. Not that far-ish.
Nice. I actually plan on visiting next year. I'm just scared of the giant spiders. So can you reassure me that I won't die?
Absolutely. Especially if you come down
spiders.
If you come down to Melbourne, there's very like less of the big spiders, but even anywhere, like I have never seen the giant dangerous ones. I've seen some of the small ones, but it's not as bad as you think. It's nowhere near as bad as you think, especially not in gyms. You'll be fine. Come. You'll love it. There's so many more positives than spiders. So funny that's the rap.
Because I watch so much National Geographic, I probably should lay off on that.
Yeah.
Because they show like only the scariest parts of certain countries and in cities to like get the views, but it like turns you off to wanting to go visit there. But I'm going next year, so I'll definitely let you know when I come visit.
Yes,
it'll be
do.
so fun.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and being so brave. It's been an incredible interview, man.
Oh, thank you, Georgia. It was nice to actually open up about that, because I know, especially this day and age, especially right now in America, there's a lot of racism going on, and people think it's not a big deal, but it really shapes your perception of who you are, and it makes you hate yourself for something that you can't change. Mm-hmm. And you can't change who you are, but you can be whoever the fuck you want to be, and just block out the noise. You are more than the color of your skin or the DNA in your blood. You are who you want to be. So that's a very important message that I want to send out to everybody that's dealing with prejudice, racism, sexism, homophobia. You are not defined by those factors. You create your own destiny and you create your own character. Everybody else, just fuck them. That's my philosophy. Fuck them.
That's how we're going to end the episode. Just fuck them.
Fuck them. Thank you so much, Georgia. It really was a pleasure speaking, and I hope we get to meet soon. We're planning on March of next year. Oh, that's soon. Oh, I need to get my calendar. I need to buy outfits. Specifically, I always buy outfits for where I'm going to travel. Okay, this is my Australia outfit. This is my England outfit.
Okay, I'm going to give you some tips then off air about how to dress for Australia in March then. Depends where you're going, but yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have you thought of something to be grateful for today? What was it? I'm grateful for the amazing women that train with me at the Fight Back Project. I'm grateful for Nari and the beautiful song Shape Me heard at the beginning and end of every episode. And I'm grateful for you for listening to this show and helping martial arts keep saving lives. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you'd like to leave me a review to help more people find the show, that's a bonus.
You need to know nobody shapes me but me. Don't gotta tell you what my name is, I don't gotta explain it. Walk in the room, hear a boom erupting like I'm famous. I'm here shedding shells, I'm shameless. I fear nothing, no complacence. Walk too many tight ropes with no hope, so I became this poster they hold over all the heads of trauma holders. You don't need to know my history, I move boulders. Atlas shrug, cause I lifted the weight above his shoulders. No pretense of defense, move first like chess soldiers. This goes deeper than empowerment, cause I'm the one to power it. Physical meets mental, challenge me to keep devouring. If I can't change the scenery, at least I change perspectives. No longer isolated, but elevated and selective. Darkest places become beautiful spaces. This is where rage meets patience, meets power meets gracious. Meets, we're so glad you came and the feeling is contagious. When you the walking impact of intended bad intentions. When you the manifesting of collecting all they tensions. You the soul and body hold it all and still remember. But I'm a work in progress, testament to all contenders. Forgot what it was like to have control over self. Forgot what it was like to be the one in charge. Forgot in my reflection I could see all my wealth. Forgot that with my bare hands I break all these bars, barriers and obstacles. They can't cage me, they can't chronicle all my experiences and reduce them to appearances. When I was truly beaten, gave myself clearances to fall down, mess up, and get myself back up. I'm not looking for clovers cause I don't believe in luck. Damn, you were badass, I heard them say it clearly. Why thank you very much, I know now I'm not weary of what's next for me. Cause I expect to see growth like I was planted, watered, fed, and bloomed to be. The positivity and accountability, knowing they won't step if I'm the agent of my agency. I think I found my voice again, huh? I think I found my voice again, huh? I'm not sorry, you're the end where I begin. Boundaries, I know them well. Take a breath and meditate. Who is she? I know her well. Now I get to open gates. 1, 2, 1, 2. I don't need your permission. And if you get uncomfortable, then use your intuition to know that I won't stay where respect is ever missing. And everything I do, that's me making decisions. It's truly underrated, the value of self-worth. Forgot that I was rich from the moment of my birth. A penny from my thoughts, no really, you can't afford it. You cannot buy my story, rewrite it, or record it. You cannot buy my story, rewrite it, or record it, huh?